The tension between Brooke Logan and Steffy Forrester reached new heights this week on The Bold and the Beautiful. Brooke issued a sharp warning to Ridge's fiercely protective daughter, which drove the tension between the two characters to new heights. During their chat, old grudges were brought up again, and fresh suspicions drove a wedge deeper into the dynamics of the family. The conversation was anything but cordial. Brooke has always been extremely protective of her relationship with Ridge, but Steffy, who is just as adamant, is not going to allow her father to suffer any harm, particularly when it comes to Brooke's conflicting loyalties. It all started with a seemingly insignificant incident that took place at Forrester Creations, where Brooke and Steffy happened to get into a conversation with one another. Because of their history, which is shaped by years of conflicts over Ridge, family allegiances, and deeply ingrained mistrust, there is a palpable sense of electricity in the air anytime these two are in the same room because of their history. It was the same as it had been before. Steffy was already on high alert as a result of previous events, and she was prepared for whatever Brooke was going to throw at her when she arrived to Steffy's office with something to say. The concern that Brooke has for Ridge, on a consistent basis, Brooke is concerned about Ridge's level of happiness. Her love for Ridge has stayed unshaken throughout the years, despite the fact that they have had a lot of back and forth between each other. Despite the fact that the two have experienced a great deal of success and failure, Brooke is adamant in her conviction that they are meant to be together. On the other hand, she is aware that not everyone has the same perspective, particularly Steffy, who has made it clear that she would prefer for her parents to keep their relationship intact. This week, Brooke's concerns were inspired by Ridge's growing closeness to Taylor, which was motivated by Taylor's recent health scare, which turned out to be a misdiagnosis. Ridge's growing connection to Taylor was the driving force behind Brooke's worry. Steffy was using emotional leverage to make Ridge believe that his place was by Taylor's side, and Brooke couldn't shake the notion that she was manipulating her parents in order to bring them together. Brooke came to the conclusion that it was sufficient to face Steffy in a forthright manner in order to ensure that Steffy was aware that Brooke would not permit her games to continue any further. When Brooke entered Steffy's office, she did not make a stealthy entrance whatsoever. As she entered, she did so with her head held high and her eyes filled with a sense of resolve. When Steffy looked up from her desk, her eyebrows raised slightly in surprise. Nonetheless, she did not appear to be overly disturbed by the situation. She chose to lean back in her chair instead, and a faint smirk played across her lips. It was as if she was daring Brooke to utter whatever was passing through her head. Brooke started off by saying, "Steffy," with a tone that was measured but forceful. "We need to talk about what you're doing with your father." Steffy did not show any signs of flinching. Before responding, she gave Brooke a gaze that was peaceful and almost indifferent, and then she asked, "And what exactly am I doing, Brooke?" Wounds that had been closed. It was a classic confrontation between the two women who had been at odds with one another for many years. Without wasting any time, Brooke went straight to the core of her worries and addressed them. She made the accusation that Steffy was trying to manipulate Ridge's emotions by taking advantage of Taylor's health issue. She was attempting to build a picture in which the only appropriate thing for Ridge to do was to remain with Taylor. Brooke, who had become weary of observing from the sidelines, made the decision that it was time to confront Steffy about her interference. Brooke spoke with a slightly elevated tone. "I am aware that you have a deep affection for your mother and that you wish for the very best for her. On the other hand, this does not give you permission to play with Ridge's emotions. He is currently in a state of conflict, and rather than allowing him to figure things out on his own, you are pressuring him to make a choice that may not be in line with what he considers to be his true desires." As she listened, Steffy's look changed from one of grin to one of increasing seriousness. Immediately after Brooke had done, Steffy gave a little shake of her head and narrowed her eyes. "Are you seriously under the impression that this is about manipulation?" she retorted. "Brooke, my mother came dangerously close to passing away. She was under the impression that she was passing away. He was there for her because he loves her, and he wants to be there for her. My father was there for her too. What does that mean for manipulation?" It was obvious that Brooke was having a hard time keeping her feelings in check as she tightened her teeth. Ridge's actual feelings had been driven to the surface as a result of Taylor's alleged illness, and she was aware that Steffy had made a valid point. Ridge's feelings had never fully disappeared. However, Brooke couldn't help but get the impression that Steffy was taking advantage of the situation by pressuring Ridge to end their relationship in favor of a family reunion with Taylor that would be perfect in every way. Brooke responded, "It's not just about being there for her, and you know it, Steffy." Steffy was aware of this fact. It has been your lifelong dream to reunite your parents, and now you are taking this opportunity to make that dream come true. On the other hand, I want to warn you that I will not simply stand by and watch as you ruin what Ridge and I have constructed. When Steffy retaliates, having never been one to back down from a quarrel, Steffy stood up from her desk, crossed her arms over her chest, and confronted Brooke in a direct manner. There was a noticeable tension in the room, and the air was thick with the weight of all that was missing from their conversation. Are you under the impression that you are the only one who gets to try to get what she wants? Steffy responded with a shot. Brooke, I want my family to be brought together. It is my hope that my father is content, and I feel that he is at his happiest when he is with my mother. Despite the fact that you have caused him a great deal of pain, he continues to return to you, just to find himself in the same position once more. What is the maximum number of times that we are supposed to witness you break his heart? Brooke's eyes widened significantly in response to Steffy's words, and a momentary expression of pain appeared on her face before she immediately covered it up. Ridge is my love, she continued, her voice becoming more subdued, but yet unwavering. And I am aware that I have made errors, that he has also done so. Both of us have engaged in activities that we are not proud of, but despite this, we always find our way back to each other. That, Steffy, is what love is all about. Although there are some flaws, it is authentic. Steffy gave a small shake of her head, registering a slight change in her countenance, but her determination remained unshaken. Brooke, it's possible that it's true for you. I believe that my father is deserving of better. He is deserving of tranquility and consistency, which he never appears to obtain when he is in your presence. The cautionary note. It was obvious that the talk was moving in no beneficial direction, and both of the women appeared to be aware of this fact at the same time. When Brooke took a deep breath, her eyes immediately locked onto Steffy's with a determination that conveyed a great deal of meaning. After much deliberation, Brooke finally responded, I'm not going to argue with you about what's best for Ridge, but Steffy, I want you to hear me. In the event that you persist in exerting pressure and attempting to exploit this circumstance in order to achieve your goals, I will not tolerate it. We have something that is worth fighting for, Ridge and I am not scared to fight you for it. Steffy did not flinch as she became aware of Brooke's attention, and her chin lifted slightly in a defiant manner. It was her response that she said, and I'm not afraid to fight for my family. Brian, you can't avoid doing what you have to do. On the other hand, you should not even consider the possibility that I will retreat. With those remarks lingering heavy in the air, Brooke turned and went out of the office, her posture tight and her expression unreadable. She had a very serious expression on her face. Steffy watched her leave, her own face displaying a mixture of determination and anxiety during the moment. She had anticipated that Brooke would ultimately come at her. Brooke was the type of person who could never tolerate losing, especially when it came to Ridge. On the other hand, Steffy was not going to allow Brooke's cautions deter her from continuing. Following the event, Ridge was caught in the crossfire. Following Brooke's departure from Forrester Creations, she was unable to get the conversation out of her head. She was beginning to feel the effects of her love for Ridge, her worries about losing him to Taylor, and her constant conflict with Steffy. All of these things were beginning to strain her. The next step that she should take was something that she found herself wondering. Should she contact Ridge directly and tell him everything that had occurred, or would doing so only make the situation even more difficult? Ridge was preoccupied with managing his own tangled feelings, so he was unaware of the conflict that was taking place between Brooke and Steffy. His love for Brooke was still very much alive, despite the fact that his affections for Taylor had returned with a vengeance. His heart was torn between two different worlds and two different loves, and he was aware that whichever choice he took, he would be causing pain to another else. A moment of peace before the storm. Brooke and Steffi's conflict was not even close to being addressed by the time the week came to a close. Despite the fact that Brooke had issued her warning, Steffy was not going to back down. Each of the two ladies was resolute in their commitment to battle for what they saw to be in Ridge's best interest, and neither of them was willing to surrender an inch. The fact that this was just the beginning was abundantly evident. At the same time that Brooke and Steffy were both digging in their heels, the scene was being set for an even more significant showdown, one that had the potential to have far-reaching ramifications for everyone involved. The struggle for Ridge's future had just begun, and his heart was on the line. Ridge's future was about to be decided. In classic Bold and the Beautiful tradition, the drama was not even close to being ended, and viewers were left wondering what their favorite characters would do next. If Brooke were to issue a warning, would it be sufficient to dissuade Steffy from approaching, or would Steffi's drive to get her parents back together prove to be more powerful than Brooke had anticipated? Although only time would tell, there was one thing that was certain. The battle for Ridge's affection was not even close to being over, and it was sure to become a great deal more complicated before anything was resolved.